Alan Vinicum, you are one sick man. You are probably sicker than Scott. Scott does his own thing, right? I have nothing to do with Scott. This message that you see now was written on the July the 3rd. I told Scott that I don't like what he's doing with the Gary Glitter stuff. We could have done a collaboration, but I'm not impressed and I want nothing to do with him anymore.
Hey y'all, so that was a snippet from Val's latest video, and I would encourage you to check it out. And so if I could just for a moment address AD directly, and I know sometimes he watches my content, I know he does, and just try to appeal to his sense of reason. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm going to try. And I do have some thoughts on his daughter and about this situation, and I'm actually going to side with AD here, which is probably going to be shocking to him. But first, I want to talk about Scott and this notion that AD has in his head, right, that the truth channels are behind his content, right, that they're somehow pulling his strings and running the show. And I have to tell you, sir, that's absolutely ridiculous. The best I can tell, Scott started making content about you because he felt you had stole his material. He didn't like it. I think there was some back and forth between the two of you. And that was where the dislike was born. And then he started to do a deep dive into you. He found some stuff that he thought was disturbing, which is fair, AD. Come on. Again, people don't make content about you because you've been an angel on YouTube for the last 5 years. You have to acknowledge that. But he acts on his own. Now, it does seem like Martin and Scott have developed a friendship, but to say that Martin is somehow pulling his strings, I don't think so. It seems like, Scott has a very big following, more so than Martin, and that, Scott is very popular. And so Scott has kind of introduced people to Martin's material. But this narrative, sir, it's conspiracy theory stuff. It really is. And it's insulting to Scott. I mean, he seems like a very intelligent, coherent person. Now, he also can be very inappropriate with his humor, and I'm not going to dispute that, okay? I think sometimes he crosses lines, personally. But as for Val, speaking of his humor, she disengaged from his content on July 5th because she was bothered by the Gary Glitter thing. And even prior to that, this was not a woman that was just always sitting up in his chats going, "Oh my God, Scott, I love you so much. Oh, Scott." It wasn't like that at all, sir. Yes, she shared that karaoke video. But even with that, AD, and I think you need to watch the video, she never called you a pedophile. She never alluded to the fact that you were a pedophile. She basically put it up and said, "What the hell are you doing? This looks suspicious. Why are you singing with children?" Right? And I realize that you think, you disproved this whole narrative that you're singing with children. I get it. And that you're upset that that video is still there. The problem is, there's two things going on. One, Val is stubborn, but two, because you have accused her of calling you a pedophile and all these horrendous things, she needs to keep that up as proof in case the police do come around, where she can show them and say, "Hey, guess what? Didn't call him a pedophile," right? The other videos were simply in response to you saying that she somehow doctored the videos. She didn't do that. Okay? And I'm telling you, AD, she doesn't like you, right? You don't like her. But she's not going to be dishonest with her content. Okay? I'm telling you. As for your daughter, Val mentioned her one time. Okay? That was in response to you talking about your daughter's mental health on a live. And she said, and I'm paraphrasing here in a video, "AD, if your daughter's really struggling, perhaps you should get offline and deal with that." That's all she said. It was nothing derogatory against your daughter, okay? Now, as for Scott, I'm going to agree with you on this, AD, okay? I think he needs to leave your daughter out of it, all right? And I realize she's an adult. I get it. She's 21 years old. But Scott is a man in his 40s and old enough to be her father. And I think she's not on YouTube. She doesn't have a public platform. She's not making videos about Scott, right? She didn't make videos about Chris Watts. She didn't, accuse Nicole Kessinger of being a murderer. That was her papa, okay? That was her daddy. And so he's fair game. But I've always said this, we don't need to be bringing people's families into this. And so I do understand why AD is mad, because this is his baby, okay? It doesn't matter if she's an adult. This is still his child. This is his baby. And he sees some guy online who he thinks is creepy, making inappropriate comments or singing inappropriate songs towards his daughter, and he's mad about it. Now, has Scott sexually abused his daughter? No, okay? No. Scott has been inappropriate, okay? And we can debate. He's crossed some lines. Personal opinion, because I have a daughter too, and I'm telling you, Scott, if you were singing stuff like that about my daughter, I'd be miffed. I would be upset. Okay, and I think if you had a daughter, you would feel the same way. So I get where the anger is coming from with AD, but I do think he's blowing this way out of proportion. Okay, but I also realize that this man has anxiety. He has mental health issues, and he's under a lot of stress because what he's doing really is deflecting from the fact that there is a court case coming. I think that, did I see somewhere where a hearing is coming up or something? I'm not sure. And so I think he's just really starting to feel the pressure. And I think it's kind of easy to point the finger at Frankie and say Frankie's behind this. But here's the thing, there's no proof of that. From what I can tell, Frankie is out living his life, pursuing the court case, and doing his own thing. And I've always said this, right? Frankie is responsible for his content and his actions, not mine, not Helen, Martin's, Val's, etc. Unless you can prove there's a correlation, and it's going to be hard to do. It's going to be real hard to prove there's a correlation, okay? Because hearsay is inadmissible in court. So I think that AD is going to be judged on his content and Frankie is going to be judged on his. That's it. Despite what people would have you believe. Personal opinion. I could be wrong. We'll see. And I also realize that AD has done some pretty inappropriate things over the years with Nicole Kessinger, right? And she's somebody's baby. But 2 wrongs don't make a right, okay? And maybe AD, you want to think about that a little bit. Because I saw a song that you were singing about Nicole, which was really gross, okay? So maybe you want to take that under, just think about it, AD. This is the thing, you've got to have the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, which is what I'm doing right now with you. You need to be able to do that with Frankie, with Frank, with Sandra, with Nicole, with Nicole's father, even with Scott. Ask yourself, why is Scott going after me so hard? Okay? Anyway, will this do a bit of good? No, it won't. It won't do any good. He's still going to have this in his head that, people are conspiring against him and it's all some big conspiracy theory, right? But I'm telling you, it's not. AD, it's not. It really isn't. And, but anyway, I have to concur, though, about the daughter stuff. My God, just leave his daughter alone. For goodness sakes. Anyway, be well, y'all.